Hey. So, Capcom has made some great games. Many of them are some of my favorite games of all time. But lately, and especially after finishing Resident Evil Requiem, I get the sense that Capcom is sort of torn these days, between trying something new and just cashing in on the old days. Street Fighter VI included a classic controls option for old fans, but changed the movesets of classic characters to fit modern controls. Dragon's Dogma finally got a sequel, but it's also kind of a remake. Pragmata looks like a fresh, new idea, but much of their other output is classics collections and remasters. Capcom is dipping their toes into the future, but they can't seem to let go of the past. They can't just commit to one thing. Monster Hunter Wilds, despite its flaws, at least had the guts to boldly go forward and make drastic changes to the formula. They were like, you know what? Fuck hunting monsters. You don't do that anymore. They're just marked on the map. You don't even have to walk. We'll just put you in a Waymo and take you right to them. And whether you think those changes are good or bad, they do give the game its own unique feel and identity. But with Resident Evil Requiem, it feels like every time they take one step forward, they take two steps back. Now, before I get into it, to any die-hard Resident Evil fans, I don't want to come across like I hated this game. I have a lot of positive things to say about it, which I'll get into later, but who cares? It's not like Resident Evil fans even play these games anyway. So with that, let's get into it. I've seen a lot of positive reviews for Requiem say some variation of Resident Evil Requiem plays the hits. It's like a greatest hits album of classic moments and characters from across the series. But is it just me? Or has Resident Evil already been playing the hits for the past 10 years? 3 of the last 5 games were remakes, and the other 2, while good and memorable, had their fair share of nods to the older games as well. When's the last time they made an RE game that didn't play the hits, and was actually bold enough to do something completely new? Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't want to piss people off too much. You know it was a good game? Resident Evil 7. 7 played the hits. There's a spooky mansion, doors with weird keys, a secret research facility. But when I think of Resident Evil 7 and the things that make it such an iconic modern horror classic, I don't think of the things it took from the old games, but rather the things that made it new. The first-person perspective, the Baker family, the Southern Gothic setting. It took inspiration from the older games, but also like those games, it took inspiration from classic horror movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Evil Dead, and the Blair Witch Project, and combined them all together into something that felt fresh and new for the series. It stands on its own. It has its own vibe. But off the top of my head, I can't think of many things in Requiem that haven't already been done before in another Resident Evil game. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with taking a trip down memory lane. And if that's all RE9 was, maybe it would have been great. But I think in trying too hard to appeal to the old and the new, Requiem feels hollow, even in its fan service. So much of the hype surrounding Requiem was about the return of Leon. Leon's back. He's so hot right now. But when I saw Leon was in Requiem, I wasn't like, wow, he's finally back after all these years. I was like, oh, that's Remake Leon. We just saw him not that long ago. And as someone who's more into the older games, I felt like I hardly recognized him at all. This is because Requiem, despite being full of callbacks to the old games, is designed to be consistent with the new remake series. And as such, there's a weird dissonance as the game tries to evoke nostalgia, while showing you things you haven't had enough time to be nostalgic about yet. Remember the RPD? Well, yeah, it's the version from the remake. We were just here. Twice.
Now here's a weird fucking door.
Or they'll show nostalgic flashbacks to scenes from RE2. But they're scenes that were only added in the remake. Yet, at the same time, they'll bring back things like the original RE2 music, or the giant spiders, which were removed from the remake. It's like they can't make up their mind. Now, I want to be clear, it's not plot holes or continuity that I have a problem with. The old games weren't exactly consistent in their continuity either. Leon in 4 is basically an entirely different character from 2. And even the highly praised A and B scenarios of 2 kind of make no sense if you think about it too much. So I understand why, with the remakes, they tried to blend it all together and make it a consistent storyline. But if you want to do that, then do that, and don't look back. Instead, it feels conflicting when Requiem wants you to look back fondly on the games that made Leon iconic in the first place, then also expects you to be familiar with their modern replacements. And they are replacements, by the way, as Capcom has expressed that they think the old games are outdated and not worth playing anymore. So it just leaves me wondering, who is this game for exactly? Requiem has seemingly been praised across the board for being a love letter to the series, a trip down memory lane for RE fans. But I can't help but feel like this nostalgic trip down memory lane is actually not made with old fans in mind at all, but rather new fans that were recently introduced to the series through the remakes. It's a nostalgia buffet catered to people that don't have the nostalgia. It wants to have its cake and also have an older cake, while sometimes switching to a new, scarier cake. And all this is giving me a tummy ache. But like it or not, these remakes are here to stay, and Capcom is pretty much making it clear that these are the canon versions moving forward, aside from some callbacks here and there. So if you're like me, and you like the classic games that made the series famous, and you don't think they need to be replaced with more modern, streamlined versions that remove much of what made them unique and iconic in the first place, then I'm afraid this series doesn't seem to be for us anymore. But also, buy it, because Leon's back, baby! Alright, I don't like being the old grumpy asshole that complains about remakes, even though that's what I am. Maybe some of you love the originals, and love the remakes, and maybe you love Requiem because it does both at the same time. And if so, I respect that, and that probably makes you a bigger RE fan than me at the end of the day. So don't be mean to me in the comments or I'm gonna cry. But if Capcom wants to replace the old games, then I'd personally rather they just commit to it. Stop half-assing the fan service, stop going to the damn RPD over and over, and start moving the series forward in a significant way. Speaking of moving the series forward, there are some things I did really like about this game. For one thing, it generally works. Like, I only had to spend a little while fiddling with graphics drivers and settings to get it to run correctly on a high-end PC, which is better than I can say for most other AAA games these days. And maybe most importantly, it's fun. The weapons and combat feel great. And I especially like the feeling of saving up my Requiem ammo for one perfect moment where you get to take down a whole group of zombies with one shot. That gun feels so powerful, like you just absolutely fuck them up when you shoot them with that thing. But I think my favorite thing about this game was Grace Ashcroft. Grace is great, and she actually feels like a new, memorable character to add to the list of RE protagonists. She's not the deepest character in the world, but let's be honest, the rest of them aren't exactly Dostoevsky either. Grace's main trait is that she's scared, and that's enough to make her interesting. Her voice actor, Angela Santalbano, does an amazing job portraying Grace's fear and awkwardness. She's always stuttering and panting and whimpering, and when she sees something crazy, she's like, "Oh fuck, what the fuck, fuck?"
Oh, what the fuck? Oh, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
It really makes you feel what she's feeling, and the whole care center section was easily the scariest part of the game for that reason. And that's really made clear when you go through the same section as Leon and it's suddenly not scary at all. It's pretty cool how Requiem plays with that idea and drastically changes your experience solely by changing the character and presentation. But mechanically, I don't really like when a game has multiple characters that you switch between that each have different control schemes. It worked in like Sonic Adventure 2, where each character is simple and the sections are only a few minutes long. But most of the time, having to switch between different control schemes just makes for a messy game that's a chore to replay. I didn't like it in Ninja Gaiden 4, I didn't like it in Devil May Cry 4, or 5 for that matter, and I don't like it here. The tutorial for Leon's control scheme happens right before a huge Grace section, so by the time I got to play as Leon again, I actually forgot that he can parry, and only remembered late in the game when there was a boss fight that required it. And while the Leon sections had some great moments, like the goofy motorcycle chase or the combat section in the Ark, I think the Leon sections ultimately bring the game down, and I can't help but imagine what the game could have been like if they had fully committed to a Grace Ashcroft-focused game. The care center, the basement, the underground section with the gas canisters, the whole Grace section was just banger after banger, and anytime I had to suddenly play as Leon, it felt like the game just screeched to a halt instead of sticking to what was already working so well. My good memories of the fresh and exciting Grace sections are tainted by the nostalgia-focused Leon sections, and the game ends up lacking a clear identity. Pulling the player between old and new while never committing to either makes for a bland, middle-of-the-road experience, like mixing every color of the rainbow and ending up with gray and brown sludge. It's a shame to see a potentially great game be bogged down by fan service like this, but I'm hopeful that Capcom can one day truly make a new Resident Evil game, with new characters, new locations, new vibes, new enemies. Really reach for the moon, and try to make something that becomes iconic in its own right, instead of looking back all the time and playing the same hits over and over that we've all heard 1,000 times. So, what did you think of Resident Evil Requiem? Am I tripping? Do I have beef with the RE community now? Should I give the remakes another shot? Let me know in the comments. I did start playing the remake of 2 again the other day, and I was like, this shit's low-key cool, not gonna lie. I was like, damn, I shouldn't make that video anymore, but fuck it. Fuck remakes, bitch. Anyway, as I was saying, thanks for watching. And be sure to like and subscribe, because I lost monetization on my channel due to not making a video for like a year. So for now, I'm just doing this for the love of the game. Which I'm cool with, I guess. I only made money on like 1 video. How much longer can I keep this outro going? Stay tuned right here on Tim Diggity. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.